also, we're thinking about like who, or specifically telling like younger kids like who they should be hanging out with and who they shouldn't be hanging out with, and like making them know that if you're around a bunch of people who are going to smoke, you're eventually probably going to crack and smoke, even if you think you can say no. So that was our first solution. Then our second solution was to advertise tobacco was very bad from a very young age. So like, I mean, we do that, but like maybe have like a class or two in elementary school that focuses on just like bashing on tobacco products all together.
All right, and then the next determinant we had was regular school attendance. And our thought process behind this was we thought that the more time kids are spending in school and the positive environment that it is with teachers, with other students, that's the less time they're going to be allowed to have a smoke break or be at home without parent supervision using tobacco illegally. And so how we wanted to motivate kids to get to school on time was by providing a reward system, whether it be cash or some other form of incentive for kids who come to school on time and who are regularly here. And now some of you might hear that and think, well, that's crazy. How are we going to pay people to come to school? The school will go bankrupt. But it has been done in Cincinnati, Ohio in 2013. They had a lot of success with it, and their attendance rates drastically increased as a result of that. And then our next determinant we had was just getting involved in substance-free activity. And so how we wanted to make this a requirement was we wanted to have an option available from a list of activities created by administration and parents, where you would have to apply for an after-school activity for at least one quarter throughout the year. And that's what we would hope would keep you busy and out of those harmful situations. And so we thought that this was our best solution, just because it's not only like the attendance determinant keeping you out of those harmful free time situations, but it's also helping you build teamwork skills, leadership skills. It's improving your work ethic, accountability, because you have to show up to this activity, you have to socialize with other people, and you have to take responsibility for that, and you're not relying on others in this situation. And then also we know that not everyone's going to agree with this or really be super excited to sign up for an after-school activity, because a lot of people would just rather go home and stick to them. I feel like giving kids this extra push could help them discover something that they actually really love or they really enjoy. And if not, then that's why it's only the quarter requirement, because then they can just move on with the school year. And then so there are a couple obstacles that we thought of that we would have to overcome. The first being that some parents might say that they don't have enough money to get their kid involved in ice hockey after school or something like that. But the truth is that we're going to have the administration and parents work on a list of free activities, just a couple simple things, whether it be dodgeball teams, something along those lines, that where we could solve that issue for parents and they wouldn't have to worry about the money if that's an issue. And then also we have the issue of people who are already in an activity. So for example, someone might be playing football and they say, well, I don't want to throw another required activity on top of that. To those people we would just say, if you get your out-of-school activity approved by administration, then that would substitute as your quarter requirement. And then finally, a lot of people think that tobacco use is no longer a problem. And I would just say that, I mean, after that activity that we just did, there's a lot of statistics and reasoning supporting that kids still are using tobacco and it still is a negative issue. And with the support of others that we could potentially gain for this project, that would kind of be helpful, and that's going to transition me into my next slide. So whose support we would need? We would want the help of the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, and she would help us get our programs at the national level and hopefully to schools across the states. And then we would have, we want the support of the United States Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy. And with his support, that would kind of solidify and validate the science and the facts behind our solution, and that it really is going to be beneficial to health and keep people out of situations where they're smoking tobacco or smoking cigarettes, using tobacco and other negative choices. And then finally, we want the help of Superintendent Jane Behrens, and she would help us get our idea accepted in the local level in ISD 196 schools, and hopefully that's something we could see in the future.
Now that we've kind of talked about it, we want to kind of show you how it's come around smoking throughout all of history. So in here we have a graph from 1944 showing that about almost every other person was smoking cigarettes, and slowly it started to decline, maybe a little rises here and there. But overall, it's still declining. But that's still putting us at the fifth of the population still smoking. And that we had a statistic that every 1 in 5 deaths was caused in smoking. So that's just kind of saying maybe like all of those people could die because it's the fifth of the population, a fifth died from smoking. Just kind of adds up. But more importantly, looking at kind of more in the local level from back in 2013, where we still had states almost like Kentucky had a third of the population still smoking cigarettes today. Now this may just be one of the higher states, but still, that's a great amount of population. Now that we've kind of looked at it over the national and worldwide perspective, now kind of looking at more in Eastview, we took a survey, how many have used different types of tobacco products throughout just a month, for example. And for males, we had about 50% were saying, no, we haven't used any tobacco products. But then if you look at the green chart on the left, it has 32.1% of Eastview saying, yeah, we smoke 16 plus cigarettes, or we use chewing tobacco more than 16 times throughout the month. And that's just as high as we brought up in the previous graph, that's higher than actually Kentucky's people who just smoke. That doesn't include the chew, the spit. But then as we move along to the female side of the graph, it changes very drastically, with 75% saying, no, we do not use any sort of tobacco. And then we had about 9% of people saying, yes, we used it more than 16 times in a month. And then about 13% saying we only used it 10 to 15. But we also want to know more than who smoked it. Have you experienced secondhand smoking? Because earlier in the presentation, we brought up the fact that 50,000 non-smokers died due to others people harm of smoking. And so we found even the numbers became worse as we moved into this question. So for when we moved into males, they had about 38% saying, no, we don't experience it. But the number from 31% in the previous graph move up to 41% saying, yes, we have experienced secondhand smoking more than 16 times in a month, which is about every other day. And we also have some other people saying, yes, we've experienced, but it's not nearly as much. And then even when we look towards the female graph, pie chart, excuse me, we still have the numbers drastically changing by over 9% of saying who hasn't experienced secondhand smoking. But the 1 to 9 ratio throughout the month has grown drastically, up by 12%. And then still the 16 plus times is still just as high as the previous chart.
Okay, so I was able to interview Kathy Barron, who's a friend's mom of mine. She's a nurse. She's been a nurse for 18 years, and she currently works at a local family practice clinic. She's told me that she sees patients with lung issues due to smoking tobacco daily, and she claims that the numbers are only rising. She told me that the risk factors of smoking tobacco include cancer, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, and diabetes. And what really got to me is when she told me, she said the life expectancy loses 28 minutes every pack of cigarettes you smoke.
And we also interviewed Jeff Lester. He's a police officer in Sartell St. Cloud, and he's been on the police force there for 15 years, and he had a lot of interesting ideas to share with us. First off, he said that the most common thing that he catches kids with as far as tobacco is concerned is cigarettes. And he says there's a variety of penalties. Some cops will just take the cigarette away and dispose of it, or whatever illegal tobacco they're using, and others will take it and issue a fine. So it's really up to the officer's discretion. And then on top of that, he said that one of the most important things that he wants to focus on as far as improving penalties for illegal tobacco use would just be not having it be a massive fine, because kids aren't going to generally learn from that. What he thinks that will be more successful would be to have these kids be involved in more creative punishments, I guess is a way to put it. So having them at a hospital, working with people who have been treated with throat or mouth cancer because of the cigarettes that they've been smoking, and just seeing firsthand the effects and what they're doing to themselves, we felt like that would be a lot more effective in the long run.
Now, we wanted to bring it down, so what can you guys do personally to help? And we want to like have each other's help deal with the peer pressure, telling them, no, you don't need to do this. It's okay, don't join that clique because they're smoking and they think they're cool. You're your own person, be cooler than them. And kind of inform them of the risk. Be like, hey, you don't want lung cancer. You can be healthy like me, live longer, make more memories. Maybe you can see some grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren. Who knows? And then we want you guys also to help set a good example to the youth. For example, maybe the middle schoolers or elementary schoolers. Because they're looking up to us and they're like, man, those guys are cool. And so many of them kind of like follow their idea. Like I know my brother at home, like if I do something, he has to go do it. Or if I wash the dishes, then he has to take them and do them, which is totally fine with me. But just showing that it's okay. You don't need to do that. That's nasty. Kind of helping them there. And just being aware of where to get help. Showing them where maybe some treatment centers are. Or maybe talk to a counselor or just talking to friends one-on-one. And then some local businesses, or more specifically apps we found to help with this was, the first one is Quit. Many said throughout the reviews, it's kind of more like, it's like a video game you're trying to beat. So like each day you'd kind of enter in, did you smoke a cigarette? And if it did, it showed you how much that cigarette costed, how much of your life it took away, some symptoms you could have gained just from that one cigarette. But then more as you kind of decrease in using cigarettes or even going days without not using it, it gave you like achievements or fun facts saying like, hey, by not smoking cigarettes in 30 days, you could buy a house now. Or just giving you achievements or some personal help, and there's also counselors that can help you throughout the app to maybe help you not to smoke another cigarette. And then the second app we found was Live Strong, My Quit Coach, which is kind of like I was saying with Quit about the personal coach, except this one's more in-depth, one-on-one. You can do video chat, or you can just do it through chat, so that way they don't have to see your face.
Okay, so our first current event we found on CNN, and said that CVS, they quit selling cigarettes. And this kind of affects the world globally because there are CVS markets around the world really, and like it kind of shows how use of tobacco has affected these companies and how they want to promote a good image for themselves instead of selling tobacco in the stores. And then second current event we have is the state of New York, they increased their cigarette price from $10.50 to $13. And this is the highest price for cigarettes. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to stop residents from smoking completely by the year 2020. And by this plan, they hope to do this. And this kind of might influence other states to follow their lead and like try to promote the stopping of tobacco. And then our last current event is that the city of Edina, they raised their the tobacco using tobacco from 18 to 21, and this kind of shows how at the local level things are even changing too, and how like maybe even other cities like even Apple Valley we can change our own morals.
So today we showed you how it affects people, the statistics, and we showed you everything that we presented. But we can't force you really to do this. Really comes down to you, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to set that good example? So it kind of comes down to all of us in general. Can we all work together to help end tobacco and save many more lives in the health care and all of the symptoms or injuries that follow? And then we have a bibliography.